I am. The palindromes are very intense right now. My dreams were very intense also. It's an interesting time because having become so as I should say, I crashed after having the seizures. After crashing, I'm kind of unsure of where all of this is going. But I had a dream last night that was very large. And to have large dreams like that are they bring my attention. I also know that during seizure time I have a lot of dreams anyway. So dreaming and seizures are very connected. This dream was very, I guess one could call it optimistic, but I don't want to call it that. I'm trying to find my way through this. And I think what it is doing is it's a signpost. And I dreamed that I went into the basement of something. A very, very deep basement and very complex and mysterious basement. And I got to a certain point in it where I could feel that everything was different. People were looking at me differently. And then a famous actor, I can say his name, but it doesn't really matter, put his arm around me and spoke very beautifully to me about what I gave him and taught him. It's not a person I know. I've never met this person, but it was interesting in regards to the dream because the dream, of course, was representing this person as a symbol. And the main thing this actor was telling me was that it was all turning around and it's coming up, and that I should just enjoy the ride and relax into the ride, and just it's all turning around and going up. The whole notion of going into an ecstatic state is interesting to me. I would like that. That would be, but I have no idea what that means. Is it me who propels myself into the ecstatic state, or is it me biologically who goes there? The dream itself was one of those dreams that I awoke from wide-eyed, riveted to the meaning of it, riveted to the actors in it, riveted to what it was saying to me, and I knew immediately what it was saying. What then is an ecstatic state? For me, it could mean a lot of hither and thither, running him around and carrying on, but it could just as well mean ecstatic in the sense of being so fully in my heart space, let us say, because my heart space is very ecstatic. When I am in my loving heart space, I am extremely ecstatic, and I always like to be there. It is a place that I seek to be there. Most living requires a lot of chores, a lot of yes, let's call them chores. And so the tendency is for chores to, in a sense, push aside the heart space. I have to get this bottle of soda. I have to buy earplugs. I have to get a charger. All of these things, and some of those chores bodily, I have to take a shower, or I have to, and it's not to say those can't be being done in an ecstatic mode. It's just that for me, the ecstatic state is very connected to heart space. So I like that aspect of it. I'm very loving. I'm very emotional. I'm crying all the time. I find crying to be one of my most cherished activities. I like the unexpected tears coming for some reason. I love it. It makes me feel. It's very rich. So the ecstatic mode is full of tears. It's full of singing to people, also to playing to people. All of these things I love. They're all emotional. They're all very passionate. The crash is not like that. The crash is very cool and distant and separated. It energetically is very sluggish. The ecstatic state is very energetically activated. The sound of my music, the sound of my voice, my singing, the sound of singing with the sweetie, all these things are very stimulating and emotional. Whereas the crash is not that. The crash is actually not emotional. So I've been going through a somewhat unemotional time. I mean, I touch down in my emotions. They are always there. It's just that the ecstatic nature of them is not as, they're very low key, they're very sluggish. When I'm ecstatic, they're just right there on the surface, ready to come out. Tears, laughter, this, that. And right before bed, the sweetie and I had a laughing fit. And so it was interesting to have such a dream. And I woke up from the dream at 101, a palindrome. All these things are very telling, very telling. To wake up at 101, that's the first of the numerical palindromes in the clock number system. I went through them all once I woke up. I consider 101 to be one of the most powerful of them. Number one, because it's number one. No, it's 101. It is like my name. You read it back and forwards easily. There's no adjustment. You have to adjust with 202 or 333 or 444. You have to turn it around, whereas one is one. It's a palindromic number. You see it back and forwards the same. Those numbers are very important. So that basically is the first one in the series. 1 o'clock, 1 minute past 1. The last in the series is 12:21. So I went through all of them, and as I continue to reiterate, having and being very aware of the palindromes, of the number of palindromes, all of them, not just the easy to read back and forward, but the ones that are back and forwards even, and you have to turn them around yourself. 333, 303, you have to turn the threes around. Sometimes I like to write 303, having the threes on the bookends be opposite each other. And sometimes I just like to write it in reverse. It helps my mind, it increases my scansion, it makes me much more observant. I see things quicker. In stillness, I see the world very, very well. Today, for instance, I lost balance on the headstone. It kind of goes with my ecstatic state because things come up also that are surprising. And that's surprising. I lost my balance and I toppled over. So where was I going to go? There was a steep drop that went down to the little river. It's not a river, it's a creek. And there was the other side, which was a parapet covered in moss and various plants. I chose to jump over to that space. I landed roughly, not as well as I wanted, but I would have landed much poorly if I went down to the creek below. It's I think it's probably about a 10-foot drop. I'm pretty graceful, I can land pretty well, but I think that I would have had a bad injury if I went down there. So I dodged that, so to speak. I jumped over it and bruised my palm. I didn't take it as I could call it impediment. It's one of those things where a surprising event happens and showed me my gracefulness, showed me my awareness and my ability to adjust to something that was surprising, and that surprised me. I was dancing to the sun, and all of a sudden size of the stone became a little bit different, and the angle of it changed, or something. Something changed and caused me to lose balance, and I made the leap. I didn't stop dancing. I danced over on the other side in the bushes, in the vegetation, and I jumped back to the headstone, continued, and went into stillness. It always surprises me how undeterred I am by sudden incidences that happen to me in the midst of my ceremonies. I don't stop and go, oh my God, I just injured myself. I don't do that. I don't go, oh, I just stopped. I went and jumped across a creek and landed in the bushes. What I do is I turn it all into the ceremony so that it actually doesn't even look like anything happened to me. So a person observing it or being in the energy of what I was doing would even think that was part of what I was intending. I don't know why I can do that. It's almost I just don't. I just am. It's almost as if I'm not bothered by anything that happens to me, and I just take it in stride with whatever I'm doing. I, in fact, am so good at that it's amazing that I'm not better at that in my life, just in my life in general. It's and maybe I'm underestimating my ability to deal with surprises in my life. One of the things we laughed about very strongly last night, the sweetie and I, was my ability to, and my, it's not an obsession as much as it is such a yearning to question everything, almost like a child. I question everything. I don't stop anywhere. It's almost, I don't know, I find when I look at it and I look at myself as a being who questions so much, I see it as actually as a quality that is very, very good. Whenever I'm in an environment in which I don't understand, I'm traveling or doing something or whatever, I always question the situation. And I do so in a way that is very gentle. Because questioning can be interrogatory, and a judge questions you before as a witness. You're questioned in a court case to see if your experience proves something, proves guilt, or proves this way or that. So there are different methods of questioning. And I see now that part of my desire to question is because I don't consider myself the highest knowledge of anything. I actually wonder about others and how they do certain things. So if there is a food that is being made and somebody's making it, I don't go, well, yes, I do so and so this way, and I do this that way, and get into I know what I'm doing, and I am the greatest chef that ever existed, and I make this better than everybody. I never do that. I when I think about it, I think how much I don't do that. In fact, if somebody says they make anything, I don't go, well, I do it this way. I go, well, how do you do it? That would be, I'm interested in how you do it. And it's so much so that I now see, and has gotten even more so as I've gotten older, it's such that I will inquire and question people who may have much less experience than I have about something, just because I'm really curious about their methods. And I've always found that I've learned something from somebody, even a person who is a novice at something that I have done for many years. And I never adopt an attitude toward them as if I know better than they about this thing, but always am curious and gently curious about them, questioning them and finding out why they do this a certain way, or this way or that way. And I've always been rewarded for that, always. I've never not been rewarded. And that reward is that I learn something more. So I guess what I could say is I'm a person who is always seeking knowledge, but not knowledge in that, not knowledge in the common way, but in a more subtle way, in a more, I could call it a more humble way. But it also gives me a quality to others that I am a questioner. I'm constantly asking questions. And a lot of people experience others who question as being interrogatory. And there is an aspect of questioning that is perhaps, if a person is being questioned, they are lesser than the person who is questioning them. That a question, being questioned about something, indicates a lack of adeptness or knowledge or ability. For me, it's not that. Mine is complete curiosity. And thus, I approach questioning it from a very neutral place. And again, that brings up the word Twoman, because Twoman is a neutral word. It is a word speaking of neutrality. It is a word speaking of presenting both. And so, to question another without making them feel inferior, but giving them a feeling of being respected for what they would offer. That is what I try to do. However, I ask questions like crazy. I can't believe how much I ask questions. Now, because the sweetie has mentioned this to me a few times, and I didn't realize it, I guess. But it's more like I'm noticing that, and I'm also noticing that how much children ask questions. And so I feel like and in a certain sense, they're a more neutral questioner. So I feel like I'm more like a child in my questioning and how I question others, ask questions, curiosity, respect. There isn't a questioning of and an undermining of the other in questioning. There is a observational attitude, as I said, neutral. So here I am, and it is very possible that I'm going to go into an ecstatic state in the next few days. I don't know, I can't say. The dream indicates that. I'm also very questioning, I'm very curious about stuff. I'm also very, very irritated by phones. So irritated, I can't really even continue to I can't stop talking about them. I am not getting a phone. Getting a phone is not something that I do, that I want to do, that I seek to do, that I have a reason to do. It's just I have no reason to do it. So I am questioning myself about that. Why don't you want a phone? I find that phones, as important as they are to modern society and you, I find that they are some of the most observational, undermining tools that have ever existed. And they are destroying people's ability to see the world around them. And I know that everybody is not thinking that. They're thinking that they're seeing so much more. But I know they're not. One of the sad things that happened that I saw on my way to dinner last night is I saw a group of men, Balinese men, gathered together in a place. That place is difficult to pinpoint. But I passed them, and they were all looking at their phones, and they were all there together looking at their phones. The phones were all about this far away from their face. And they were all in this group looking at the phones. I don't like the way that feels energetically. I don't like the way that looks. I don't like the way that feels. It's just so strange. I sit in the yard. I sit in the side of the road. I sit wherever. And I'm observing all the wonderful things that are happening, and so many things are happening. The tree is being blown by the wind. The lizard is running across the walk. The leaf flutters down. The snail crawls across the offering. I find all these things to be extremely stimulating. And when I'm in ecstatic mode, they are even more so. Whether I'm in ecstatic mode or not is not what I'm trying to speak to at the moment. I'm speaking to the fact that awareness and observing the world and really seeing what is going on around one is limited by phones, period. It's not increased. It's not increased at all. It's not increased even a tiny bit. What that means in the future, I have no idea. But I will talk about it over and over. This is my redundancy. I spoke of my redundancies. I have tons of them. My death dance, all these things. I will speak about them over and over. Posture. Scanning backwards and forwards. That which is so important to me and to what I believe to be important. And another thing that the phone limits and destroys is scanning freedom. It's based on scanning in one direction, not in both. That's something that I think that people should think about a bit, is how problematic scanning is with phones, computers too, all of it. It's all very, very, very based on the European, American method of reading. There are a few cultures that scan in opposite directions, but their whole construct is a little bit different, so it's not understood that way, but it is different scanning. And I say to you, think about it every once in a while, about scanning in the opposite direction than you are used to.